8-year-old Zara clutched her grandmother's hand as they walked down the narrow airplane aisle. Her bright pink backpack bounced against her small shoulders, filled with coloring books and snacks for the long flight to Atlanta. Grandmother Maya smiled warmly at her granddaughter, adjusting Zara's purple headband with gentle fingers. "Remember what I told you, sweet pea," Maya whispered softly. "We're going to see your cousin Sam graduate from college. This is a very special day for our family." Zara nodded excitedly, her eyes wide with wonder as she looked around the busy cabin. Passengers were settling into their seats, storing luggage in overhead compartments, and chatting quietly among themselves. Near the front of the plane, flight attendant Lisa checked her clipboard with a stern expression. Her blonde hair was pulled back tightly, and her blue uniform looked perfectly pressed. She glanced up as Maya and Zara approached their seats in row 12. Behind them, businessman Mr. Davis adjusted his black suit jacket and settled into his first-class seat. He opened his laptop but kept watching the other passengers with curious, observant eyes. A young mother named Sarah sat across the aisle, entertaining her toddler with a small toy airplane. She smiled kindly at Zara as the little girl passed by. As Maya helped Zara buckle her seatbelt, flight attendant Lisa approached their row with a cold stare. Her voice was sharp and unwelcoming. "Excuse me, you two need to move to the back of the plane," Lisa announced loudly, causing several passengers to look up from their magazines and phones. Maya looked confused, holding up their boarding passes. "I'm sorry, but these are our assigned seats. Row 12, seats A and B." Lisa snatched the boarding passes from Maya's hands, examining them with exaggerated suspicion. "These look fake to me. I don't think you belong in these seats." Young Zara looked up at her grandmother with worried eyes, not understanding why the lady was being so mean. Other passengers began whispering among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with what they were witnessing. Sarah, the young mother across the aisle, frowned deeply. She had heard every word and could see that Maya's boarding passes were perfectly legitimate. An elderly man named Robert in the seat behind them shook his head in disgust. "Ma'am, our tickets are real," Maya said calmly, trying to keep her voice steady for Zara's sake. "We purchased them 3 weeks ago through the airline's website." Lisa's face turned red with anger. "Don't argue with me. I know troublemakers when I see them. You're probably here to cause problems." Mr. Davis looked up from his laptop, his jaw tightening as he watched the scene unfold. He pulled out his phone and began recording discreetly, his eyes never leaving Lisa's face. The tension in the cabin grew thicker as more passengers turned to watch the confrontation. Sarah pulled out her phone and started recording. "This is completely wrong," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I watched them board with valid tickets." Robert stood up from his seat, his voice firm and steady. "Young lady, I've been flying for 40 years. Those people have done nothing wrong, and your behavior is absolutely unacceptable." More passengers began pulling out their phones, capturing Lisa's increasingly hostile actions. A college student named Tom shook his head. "This is pure racism, and we're all seeing it happen." Lisa's face grew even redder as she realized people were recording her. Instead of backing down, she became more aggressive. "All of you need to mind your own business. I'm in charge of this flight, and I decide who sits where." The commotion grew louder, and several passengers pressed their call buttons. Within minutes, Captain Ben emerged from the cockpit, his pilot's uniform crisp and his expression serious. "What's going on back here?" Captain Ben asked, looking directly at Lisa. "I can hear shouting from the front of the plane." Lisa pointed at Maya and Zara. "These two are causing trouble. They're trying to sit in seats that don't belong to them." Mr. Davis quietly closed his laptop and stood up, walking slowly toward the scene. His movements were calculated and purposeful, like someone who was used to handling difficult situations. Other passengers noticed his confident stride and wondered who this mysterious businessman really was. Davis stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Captain Ben, I think I can help clarify this situation." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a gold badge with the airline's logo. "I'm James Davis, Regional Director for this airline. I've been observing this entire incident." The cabin fell silent. Lisa's eyes widened in shock as she stared at the badge. Her confident demeanor crumbled instantly. "Sir, I was just doing my job," Lisa stammered, her voice shaking. "These passengers seemed suspicious." "Suspicious how?" Mr. Davis asked, his tone sharp and direct. "Because they're black? Because a grandmother is traveling with her granddaughter?" Captain Ben examined Maya's boarding passes carefully. "These tickets are completely legitimate. First-class seats, purchased weeks ago, confirmation numbers match our system perfectly." Sarah held up her phone, showing the video she had recorded. "I have everything on camera." She demanded they move to the back of the plane for no reason. Robert nodded vigorously. "I saw the whole thing. This woman treated them terribly from the moment they sat down." Tom, the college student, showed his phone screen. "I got her saying she decides who sits where based on how people look. This is clear discrimination." Lisa's face turned pale as she realized how much evidence existed against her. She tried one last desperate defense. "You don't understand. I was protecting the other passengers. Sometimes people like them cause problems." Mr. Davis's expression hardened. "People like them? A respected grandmother taking her granddaughter to a family graduation? Your racism is showing, Lisa, and it's disgusting." The other passengers murmured their agreement. Little Zara held her grandmother's hand tighter, still confused but sensing that the adults were finally standing up for them. Captain Ben stepped closer to Lisa. "In 20 years of flying, I've never witnessed such unprofessional behavior from a crew member." Lisa looked around desperately, realizing that everyone on the plane had turned against her. Her career was crumbling before her eyes, and there was nowhere left to R&R. Davis looked directly at Lisa, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Lisa Henderson, you are terminated from your position effective immediately. Your employment with this airline is over." The words hit Lisa like a thunderbolt. "You can't fire me here. Not in front of all these people." "I absolutely can, and I just did," Mr. Davis replied firmly. "Your racist behavior has no place in our company or anywhere else." Captain Ben removed Lisa's wings pin from her uniform. "Please gather your personal belongings and leave the aircraft immediately. Security will escort you off the plane." Mr. Davis turned to face Maya and Zara, his expression softening completely. "Ma'am, on behalf of our entire airline, I offer you and your granddaughter our deepest apologies. Your treatment today was completely unacceptable." The cabin erupted in applause. Passengers clapped loudly, showing their support for the swift justice they had just witnessed. Sarah cheered from across the aisle, while Robert gave a thumbs up. Furthermore, Mr. Davis announced to the entire plane, "Our company has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind. Any employee who treats passengers with racism or prejudice will be immediately terminated." Little Zara looked up at her grandmother with relief in her eyes. Maya squeezed her hand gently, tears of gratitude rolling down her cheeks. Lisa walked down the aisle in shame, carrying her small bag, while passengers watched her leave. Justice had been served at 30,000 feet. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Sarah moved to the empty seat beside Zara. "Would you like to color together?" she asked sweetly, pulling out crayons from her bag. Zara's face lit up with joy. "Yes, please. I have princess coloring books." Robert leaned forward from behind them. "Young lady, you handled that situation with such grace and dignity. You should be very proud of your grandmother." Maya smiled through happy tears. "Thank you all for standing up for us. It means more than you'll ever know." Captain Ben made an announcement over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we witnessed something beautiful. When hatred showed its face, good people stood up and said no. That's the world I want my children to grow up in." The passengers applauded once more. Mr. Davis returned to his seat, knowing he had done the right thing. As the plane soared above the clouds toward Atlanta, Zara looked out the window with wonder. She had learned that even when bad things happen, there are always more good people than bad people in the world. Hope had been restored, and justice had prevailed.